The Republican presidential candidates have all consistently agreed on one thing. The health care reform bill that President Obama signed into law is bad, very bad. All but one of the Republican presidential candidates agree that the health care reform bill that Governor Mitt Romney signed into law is bad, very, very bad.
Balancing the federal budget, and that starts with repealing Obamacare.
You just don't have credibility, Mitt, when it comes to repealing Obamacare. Your plan was the basis for Obamacare.
I was asked, is this something that you would have the whole nation do? And I said, no. This is something that was crafted for Massachusetts.
What you did is exactly what Barack Obama did.
There's a lot of big government behind Romney Care, not as much as Obamacare, but a heck of a lot more than your campaign is admitting.
Actually, we got the idea of an individual mandate from you.
That's not true. You got it from the Heritage Foundation.
You did support an individual mandate.
Sir.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm saying. We got the idea from you and the Heritage Foundation.
We're back with our panel, National Affairs Editor for New York Magazine, John Heilemann, who was at the debate last night, MSNBC political analyst Alex Wagner, former advisor to the George W. Bush and McCain campaigns, Mark McKinnon, and the former chief of staff to Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, Ron Carey. Thank you all for staying with me. I just want to show you, just to add to the video library on Mitt Romney and health care. Here is Mitt Romney on Meet the Press in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I happen to like what we did. I think it's a good model for other states. Maybe not every state, but most.
So much for it was only for Massachusetts. We're going to see an awful lot of that Meet the Press clip in some campaign ads, aren't we, John?
We sure are. And, it's been a while. Look, Mitt Romney has done a pretty good job so far at diffusing this issue up till now. And there was always a time when you knew it was going to come, when the ideological critique of Mitt Romney as not being sufficiently conservative for today's Republican Party was going to come at him from every angle. And this has got to be Exhibit A. The individual mandate is, something that many Republicans think in principle is wrong, not just for the federal government, but for any state to adopt. And Romney is going to now start to be hammered on this. And I think, again, last night, what we will remember this debate for was the moment when his artful dodging on this issue, the rest of the Republican candidates said, that's enough. We're going to start taking you on this head on, and he's going to have to defend it in a much more forthright way than he has so far.
It's really that the other candidates found their voices and found the way to swing the bat on this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a turning of the tide, and it was like, Mitt Romney, you are the effigy. You are the straw man. We are going after you, and it's your time. And really, it's Mitt Romney backing away from his own shadow. I think, it's a question as to whether the American public is going to say, well, we believe what you're saying, or really, I think it's an either-or proposition for them on this, because you look at Massachusetts and you look at Obamacare, and the president is going to be saying over and over and over again, as his senior advisors did today, Romney Care was the model for Obamacare, for the Affordable Care Act.
Mark McKinnon, in what is now my proven inability to read Republican presidential primary politics, I had always thought that Mitt Romney simply could not survive as a Republican presidential primary candidate because of his health care connection. He is a front runner. He has survived so far. Can he make it all the way? Is this the thing that can stop him, the most potent thing that can stop him?
I think it is, and the surprise has been that so far he's been able to handle that issue. We all thought it'd wrap around his axle much earlier, but he's showed great candidate skills and learned a lot from the last election. But last night, I think, was just reaffirmed for everybody and reminded everybody that this issue is kryptonite for him. And they pushed out the kryptonite, and you can see him start to wilt, and you can see him start to fade, and you can see the others gaining strength as he was losing his. So, and I think everybody smells that now, and I think he's going to get a lot more of it in the next debates. And, the next debates, I think, are going to get really interesting now. I think everybody's going to have to come with their body armor loaded up.
Ron Carey, the new NBC poll of South Carolina and Florida Republican voters goes to another problem. It appears to be. It doesn't exactly say how it plays in the campaign, but the Mormon question that we all don't even quite know how to talk about. For example, in South Carolina, the NBC poll found that of Republican primary voters, 53% say no, a Mormon is not a Christian. In Florida, 42% of Republican primary voters say a Mormon is not a Christian. And then there's another question. A recent poll, it asked to describe Mitt Romney in one word. 60% used the word Mormon, The next thing down was health care at 17%. Is there a way to factor in what the Mormon factor is in Republican primary voting and how it's going to affect Romney going forward?
It's an issue, but it's a pretty small issue. I mean, it pales in comparison to what we've been talking about with health care, because health care is the Achilles heel for Mitt Romney, and that's what he's going to have to fend off. You know, there may be a handful of people where this is a concern, but those same people are going to have just as much, if not a bigger concern with his flip-flopping issues on many of the issues that are important to them as conservatives. So I don't think it's going to be a deciding issue, but it's something, it is the gnat that it's going to continue to haunt him a bit, but it's not going to be the issue that's going to take him out. It will be health care. I mean, Mark was exactly right. If he is going to go down, it's going to be health care. But what we got to keep in mind is in the Republican primary circles, it goes back to our last discussion about keeping everybody viable. You don't need to win a majority of the vote to become the nominee. If you look back to 2008, John McCain was getting 25 or 30% in South Carolina, and that was enough to win and thread the needle to become our nominee. He didn't start getting a majority of the vote till much later in the process. So Romney seems to have at stable 20-25% of the Republican establishment there. He just needs to be able to get incrementally 5 or 10% more to be able to vanquish his opponents. And unless the conservatives, the more conservative wing of the party, is able to consolidate behind one champion, he'll probably become the John McCain of 2008 and be able to thread that needle and become the establishment candidate that's able to prevail over the majority that is of the party that's more conservative but are fragmented among many candidates.
John, quickly before we go, they're talking about it even when they're not talking about it. There's Newt Gingrich, who talks about religion at length up there in the debate stage, saying the only important thing is that you have faith, that you have a religion. You must not be an atheist. You're not allowed. That's the religious test. You must not be an atheist, but you can be anything else. When Gingrich is talking about that, he is, in effect, talking about the Mormon question without going directly to it.
Every time anybody talks about religion in this Republican primary, they're in effect talking about Mormonism. And look, Mitt Romney did a tremendous job last night. That was the strongest moment for him in the debate when he talked about how he shouldn't be subject to a religious test. But this party is a Southern party. And what we're going to see, especially if Rick Perry, because of his financial resources, if he is resurgent and we start to see this become a Romney-Perry race as it plays out, we're going to see a very big difference between the northern part of the Republican primaries and the southern part. And in the southern states, where Rick Perry will be strongest, there is a strong feeling among a lot of evangelical voters that Mormonism is not Christianity, that it is a cult. And Perry will exploit that, and we will see this throughout, especially if those two end up mano a mano as we go forward.
And, of course, the funny thing is that Democrats and liberals would have no problem, as they showed in Massachusetts when they elected Romney the Mormon governor. They had no problem with it at all.
Rightly so.
John Heilemann, Alex Wagner, Mark McKinnon, and Ron Carey, thank you all very much for joining me tonight.